The new year could bring new developments in vaccines and health policy, but the global story now is all about variants. Because just when we thought things were starting to get back to normal, Omicron had other plans. It was first identified in South Africa in late November, and by December 1st, it was confirmed that Omicron had made its way to the US.
The California and San Francisco Departments of Public Health and the CDC have confirmed that a recent case of COVID-19 among an individual in California was caused by the Omicron variant.
Within the last month, COVID cases have rapidly increased across the country, and in response to this, some new policies have been put in place. While cities like New York City and San Francisco have had vaccine mandates in place for months, places like DC, Boston, Chicago, and others are starting to implement vaccine mandates for indoor dining, gyms, theaters, and other entertainment venues too. New York City took their mandate a step further. In addition to requiring public sector employees to be vaccinated, the city is now asking private sector businesses to require it for their employees as well.
The reason the city keeps going, the reason we are open when some other places are shut down, is because of our focus on vaccination, because we use mandates and incentives. We got to double down, because one thing we can all agree, and I've talked to a lot of business leaders about this, COVID is bad for humans, it's bad for our health, but it's also bad for business.
And even what it means to be fully vaccinated is shifting. 205 million people in the US have received 2 doses of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines, or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. But only 33% of those people have gotten their booster. During a recent White House COVID response team briefing, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky was asked if the agency will change their definition of fully vaccinated to include being boosted.
Our guidance right now is very clear. CDC strongly recommends that people who are eligible for a booster go get a booster. We're looking at the definition right now, and more to come there. But just to be very clear, our recommendations are to get boosted.
The FDA also expanded booster eligibility for kids ages 12 to 15, changed the recommended amount of time between the second Pfizer dose and the booster from 6 months to 5 months, and is now allowing a third vaccine dose for kids ages 5 to 11 that are immunocompromised. So what about getting tested? I know when I tried to find a test before the holidays, they were not easy to find. And by not easy to find, they were impossible to find. Biden announced that starting this month, the White House is prepared to ship out as many as 500 million at-home COVID test kits, in addition to expanding free COVID test sites across the country. And there's some good news with new COVID treatments as well. The FDA has authorized 2 COVID pills aimed at treating those with severe symptoms, with the goal of decreasing hospitalization.
Obviously, a very difficult situation when you have a limited supply. For that reason, we've asked the NIH Guidelines Committee to put together a recommendation of when someone comes in with an acute infection and is in a risk group, that we would have a prioritization of what the best approach would be.
And I'm sure we've all seen the memes about the CDC's new quarantine guidance all over social media. People were pretty confused when they changed the quarantine period from 10 days to 5 days, with varying guidance for asymptomatic people and people experiencing symptoms. Even before that news, we were already seeing return to office plans change, colleges delay their spring semesters, some grade schools going virtual, sporting events and flights being canceled. That sound familiar? But as we learn more about COVID, adopt more widespread testing, and test out some new treatments, 2022 could very well be a year of progress in this pandemic, both for public health and for policy.
Are we through the pandemic? No, we're not. But we are in a very different place than we were 1 year ago.